Coming up on Network Africa, Britain warned South Africa on Islamic attack on foreigners after kidnap of 2 British nationals. And UN reports massive violations of human rights and war crimes in South Sudan. Plus, EU to boost funding for the Sahel region to counter Islamic insurgencies. Many thanks for joining us. I am BC Adebayo. Let's kick off today's show from South Africa, where the leader of the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta, Henry Okah, has lost his bid to challenge his conviction in South Africa for 2 separate bombing incidents that occurred in Warri and Abuja in 2010. In a unanimous judgment on 2 consolidated cases, Justice Edwin Cameron ruled that Mr. Okah's trial under the Anti-Terrorism Act of South Africa was in line with the country's international obligations. Our Johannesburg Bureau Chief Veta Dibia has a report.
It was a unanimous decision presented in court by Justice Edwin Cameron, and it was not in Mr. Henry Okah's favor.
The court, in deciding this appeal on his conviction, holds that the irregularity regarding consular access did not result in a failure of justice and that Mr. Okah's convictions are therefore safe. The result is that the court sets aside the judgment of the Supreme Court of Appeal and dismisses Mr. Okah's challenges to his conviction. The result is that all the convictions the High Court entered are reinstated, together with the sentence of 24 years that it imposed. I should add that at no stage was the court's discretionary exercise of its power to sentence Mr. Okah in issue. The only question before this court were legal questions.
After giving the ruling, Justice Cameron gave a 7-point order.
1. The application for leave to appeal by the state is granted. 2. The appeal by the state succeeds. 3. The order of the Supreme Court of Appeal upholding Mr. Okah's appeal is set aside. In its place there is substituted. The appeal is dismissed. 4. Mr. Okah's application for leave to appeal regarding exemption from prosecution under Section 1(4) of the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorist and Related Activities Act is dismissed. 5. The portion of Mr. Okah's application for leave to appeal that relates to the special entry on the High Court's failure to inform him of his right to consular access is granted, and the special entry is made. However, 6. Mr. Okah's appeal against his conviction on the basis of the special entry is dismissed. 7. The remaining portions of Mr. Okah's application for leave to appeal regarding the special entries are dismissed.
It is not what we expected. It is a terrible blow. As you can see, Mrs. Okah can't handle it.
Our concern still remains that he's been treated like a criminal. And in our reading, in our writing, in our books, we regard him as a freedom fighter, and that's it. And it will go down in history that a freedom fighter was arrested, convicted, and sentenced in South Africa, and even the High Court confirmed the sentence.
Mr. Henry Okah has been in custody since 2010, but with the reinstatement of the 4 dismissed years from his sentence, he will be now serving 24 effective years, starting from his conviction date of 2013. From the Constitutional Court of South Africa, Veta Dibia, Channels Television News.
Britain has warned of a threat of attacks by Islamics on foreigners in South Africa after 2 British nationals were kidnapped while on holiday. The couple, who have not been named, were taken on February the 12th in a small town in the KwaZulu-Natal region. The South African police say they have no evidence militants were behind the incident and do not believe the assessment of the UK Foreign Office. According to a spokesperson for the Hawks, Lloyd Ramaphosa, 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the kidnapping. South Africa has a large expatriate community and attracts many tourists as it's seldomly associated with Islamist militancy. Ethiopia has released more than 1,500 political prisoners in the eastern Somali region following a pardon by regional president Abdi Mahmoud Omar. This comes days after the declaration of a state of emergency by government in a bid to tamp down arrest in Africa's second most populous nation. Ethiopia has released more than 6,000 prisoners since January, including some high-profile journalists and opposition leaders. Friday's declaration of a 6-month-long state of emergency followed Haile Mariam's desolate surprise resignation on Thursday. He remains in office, overseeing the region's biggest economy until a new prime minister is appointed.